In today's video, I'm going to make my own custom nutcracker starting with nothing but a blank wooden nutcracker that I found at Michael's. Come along with me to see how I turn him into a peppermint nutcracker king. Quick disclaimer, this is by no means a tutorial on how to make your own custom nutcracker. This was just my own little project that I did for fun. This is in no way a step-by-step on how to do this yourself, but you can totally take some of the ideas that I've been using to make this nutcracker if you would like to make your own. Now that that disclaimer is out of the way, let's jump into the video. There are lots of arts and craft stores where you can find your own supplies to make your own nutcrackers if that's something that you would like to do. I found all of my supplies at Michael's. I'm not sponsored by them, but I am a big Michael's fan, so I got all of my supplies for this project at Michael's. Now, before I go ahead and start working on this huge nutcracker project, I need to actually design the nutcracker. I don't want to jump into just painting it nilly-willy without a plan, so I want to do some sketching to figure out what I want to do for this design before I actually commit to putting paint onto the wood. Now, to those who are wondering, I did get this idea from TikTok. I will be upfront with that. I was inspired by the TikTok trend that went around back in November of people painting their own nutcrackers. I thought it seemed really fun, and when I saw those videos, I was like, I want to do that. So I went to Michael's and found everything I needed because I wanted to make my own nutcracker, especially since I have my own place now and I don't have any nutcrackers compared to my family's collection of over 60. So literally making my own unique nutcracker really helps it feel like I'm bringing a little bit of my childhood home into my new place. As for the inspiration, I did a ton of different sketches trying to figure out what exactly I wanted to do for this design. I knew going in I wanted to do something peppermint oriented because that's my whole Christmas decor theme is peppermint. I love red and white. My whole tree is red and white. I have tons and tons of peppermint. So I knew I wanted to do some sort of peppermint wizard, peppermint king, something like that, while still maintaining traditional nutcracker styles and nutcracker suits and just other elements that you commonly associate with a nutcracker. So I did a ton of different sketches for things I could do for the body, but I was also planning to make a cape. So the designs that I drew ended up being something that's more hidden within the final design, but it's still something I really wanted to put a lot of effort into. If anyone happens to pull up the capes, that way they can see the sleeves, I want that to still look really nice and professional. It took me a while to figure out exactly which ones to go with. I wanted to do something that wasn't too soldier uniform-esque, but something that was still within like my style and something that still fit the look of a nutcracker. And so I ended up going with this kind of layered look where we have this coat, this long sleeve coat, like suit vest sort of thing that has a belt around it with a peppermint on top. Then we have a chain that has candy canes on it, and then there's also little candy canes hanging from the belt itself. I decided to design that first because that is kind of the most important part of the nutcracker. It's the largest part and it's what has the most detail usually, aside from the face. So that's where I figured I would start. Then I started figuring out what I would do with the hat. It was a bit of a challenge with the hat. I was expecting the hat to be the easiest part to design, but it turned out that it was actually quite difficult. However, once I started drawing in all of the peppermints and trying to think in my mind about where I was going to be placing these peppermints so they were 3D and they were going to be hot glued on, I ended up choosing one that complements the pinstripe look that I ultimately decided to go with while still not being so detailed. I wanted your eyes to still be attracted to the nutcracker without feeling like it was too overcrowded or overwhelming, so having a simpler design for the hat ended up working out really, really well. For the arms, I ultimately decided to just continue the pinstripe design that I had used for the torso along the entire arm, and then add little gloves and some cuffs to give the hint that this is, again, a layered outfit. There's some other material challenges that we'll get into later. So once I finished all my sketches and figured out what direction I wanted to take with the design, I started painting, and I left the rest of the details for whenever they were going to come up in the future. Now, I am by no means an expert in painting wood. I know a couple of things here and there, but I am in no way any sort of master at any sort of woodworking or painting on wood. I'm also not a master at 3D objects and painting 3D objects. It's just something that I don't usually do with my work, so this was a unique challenge in of itself, because not only am I creating a whole Nutcracker from scratch, but I'm also creating a 3D wooden Nutcracker from scratch. One thing I do know about wood though is that if you're painting a wooden surface like this, which is more of like a soft plywood type material, it's going to have the paint sort of soak into it a little bit on your first couple of layers. It's something that I've noticed while working on wood pieces before, on flat wood pieces. Usually if you're working with something like this, it tends to be a little bit absorbent. So I knew going in I was going to have to do a couple of layers on each part of its body in multiple different colors, because I knew the first layer was going to soak right into the wood anyway, and it wasn't going to look perfect. You were going to see some streak marks, so I was expecting to do about 2 to 3 layers per body part for this Nutcracker, and that wasn't too far off. For some of them I had to do a bit more. For example, I did the red layer first because it's the most prominent color on the entire Nutcracker. But if I made any mistakes and went over any areas that weren't supposed to be red, I would then have to do extra layering work to be able to get rid of that red with other colors on top of it. Specifically, this was the biggest issue with the white, because white already is a bit more transparent than most other colors, so I had to do multiple layers of white to be able to get it to fully cover up all the spots where I either screwed up or accidentally painted over, or anything at all happened. I would have to go over it again with white. So it was definitely a long process and a learning process as well, learning how to use paint on this type of material and still utilize the paint the best I could, because these are cheap craft paints. They're not fantastic professional grade acrylic paints. They're just 75 cents paints that I got at Michael's, and honestly they kind of worked perfectly for this project. In the end, after I did multiple layers, they didn't really end up looking all that streaky. I was able to get pretty solid coats and finishes, and I was surprised I could actually make something really, really good with this paint. Despite my preconceived notions of its cheap quality, it turned out really, really good. This was the longest part of the process and actually took a couple of days for me to finish, which is why this is so sped up, because it's multiple clips over multiple days. And that was just for the base coat itself. After I finished the base coat, then I started working on the face, and then after I did the face, I started working on the body again and doing more of the detail work. Now I do have some clips in here of me actually checking in while I'm midway through the process, so you'll be able to hear my thoughts in real time as I'm working on the Nutcracker.
I saved the white for last because I want this to be perfect, but I'm also just scared of doing white. White is always the most difficult color layer for me to put onto anything in general, so I'm going to be extra careful to make sure that the white is perfect. And then once I'm done applying all the layers to the white, I'm going to go in and I'm going to add in all the final touches. If there's any edges that have accidentally bled over, like here on the cuffs, I want to make sure that I fix that, because you can see right here it's a little bit messy, so I want to fix that. So once I actually get done with that, then I'll go ahead and I'll start fixing up all these edges, and then I'll start adding detail work. Looks like there was a bit of a bleed, and this is a bit uneven, so I'm gonna have to fix that.
This video doesn't really do it justice, but you all have no idea how long it took me to actually get the white over all of this perfectly without any extra ghosting, which you'll see in the next clip.
And this is why I say white is the hardest layer, because there's so much ghosting of the red underneath, and that is going to take so many layers to actually cover up. This is why I don't like working with white, because it's just so difficult.
My suggestion, if you want to do this, is to be patient and really take your time.
We're now going to be doing a somewhat scary part, which is me drilling a hole into this guy's hand, so that way I can give him a custom scepter. It is going to get dark soon, so here's the plan. I'm going to try to get the face done. If I can get the face done, I'll call it a day. I have to mix up whatever skin tone color I want to end up using. I don't know if I'm going to go like super pale or if I want to do something more tan. I don't really know yet. So I'm going to try mixing up a couple skin tones and see what tone I want to do for this guy's face. I'm not going to do the hair yet. I want to get all the painting work done first. So now that I've done all the edges and smoothed out everything I possibly can and made it be precisely the way I want, I'm going to start working on the face.
I tried to record the process of doing the face as best as I could, but after I did the base skin tone layer, it got really difficult to actually put any details on without getting super up close and personal and really close to it. So you can see that I tried here to make it look all nice for the recording and not me zooming in super close physically with my face to work on him. So it took some trial and error. There were some areas that I had to repaint over again, like the eyes and the blush and a little bit of the mustache, but eventually I got there and it looks really good. Just took my time, was super patient, and he looks great.
The face is done, so this is where I'm going to call it a day because it's getting dark and I've been working on this for a while, so it's probably a good idea for me to go do something else for a bit. We got the base coat done and the face is done. I've outlined the back where the hair is going to go because I am going to be adding hair to this guy as well, so that's going to be something that I'm adding. I'm going to start painting on the details whenever I'm next free. Tomorrow's a work day, so we'll see what I'm able to do. This may take a couple weeks to finish. We're just gonna find out. So I still need to add the stripes to this part of the hat. I need to add all of the clothing details, and then I'll start adding extra textile things. Like the hair is gonna come later. So for now, he's going to be a buzz cut redhead, and that's what we're sticking with until I give him hair. But great progress for starting off. We have all the base coats done, and we have the lovely face. Hello, welcome to day 2 of working on the Nutcracker, currently week 2 as well, because I'm only able to work on it on the weekends. If you hear the rumbling in the background, that's because I got a rock tumbler, and it's currently in its first spin cycle for polishing rocks. So I'm not going to be filming as much, especially as we get into more of the detail work, because that's what I'm mostly focusing on today, is getting into the detail work of the Nutcracker. And because I'm going to be just really zooming in close and working on a ton of stuff super detailed, it's going to be really hard to film. So I might not get as many clips, but I'll definitely show you progress along the way.
This clip is super sped up, but I started with painting the hat because I had a couple pinstripes I needed to add it to make it match the vest.
I'm going to lose my mind with this. I started using a paint pen to draw these little peppermints on top of the belt, and the paint pen exploded, and now I'm going to have to repaint white all over the belt once this is dry. This is taking a lot longer than I initially hoped it would because I keep making mistakes. I had to repaint over this whole part because I was not getting steady enough lines with a paintbrush, so I ended up using my Posca pen, but I had to repaint over that to get it to work. So we're encountering a lot of issues. We're gonna work through it though. It'll all look good eventually. Okay, update. I have finished correcting everything, and I've finished adding on all the details to the body. I still have to paint the base, but that'll be saved for last just because that's gonna be a whole other effort. I have spray faked snow and stuff I'm going to be adding to it. So we have all of the painting work done now. As you can see, I've added the pinstripes for the vest, I've added the laces and painted on peppermints for the shoes, I've added the peppermints for the belt, and then I added the tassels on the shoulders. And I added the stripes to the hat too. So we have all the details done, and now it comes down to gluing on all of the large peppermints that I got specifically for this design. And so next it's gonna be hot gluing. I'm gonna figure out the hair, and then maybe start figuring out stuff for the cape that I'm gonna be putting around him. We'll see how long it takes. The hair might take a while. So right now, the only two things I'm very solid on I want to do this is I want to get all the peppermints on him and then figure out the hair.
Don't mind the sudden change in scenery and lighting. I just moved the project over to my desk where I could actually use a glue gun safely while attaching the peppermints to this, and since I was working on the hair as well, I decided to just move it all over to my desk where it would be easier to work on them. However, this is not the hair method I stuck with.
Hello, it's the same day, but I got a haircut, and I made another trip to Michael's because I wasn't really liking the way that the ribbon and bag version of the hair was going. So I'm going to do my best to remove what I have hot glued on, and I instead went back to Michael's and found another option. I went and found some really pretty red and white colored yarn. It's very soft, and I think it's more what I'm trying to go for when it comes to hair for this guy. I really love the gradient, how we can have the natural transition between the white and the red. That's really what I'm trying to go for here, so I'm going to use this instead.
Hello everyone, it's Sunday morning and he has hair. He looks so good. I love the way that the yarn makes his hair really poofy. This is the best like last minute switch up decision I've ever made. I love him, he looks so cute. So today what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be making his cape and possibly the scepter and finishing him. I did order some spray glass that's going to be arriving tomorrow so that way he can look all nice and shiny, but still have to make the cape and the scepter. Those are the last two pieces before he's technically like done before I add all of the gloss. So that's the plan for today. I do have to go in to get my hair recolored because while I did get it cut, we didn't have enough time for a recolor. So I'm gonna go get my hair recolored today. But along with that, we're gonna be working on the cape and the scepter. Now I didn't include very many clips of me working on the cape just because this was a pretty large scale part of the project that was kind of tricky to film because of just my sewing machine is huge. But what I can tell you is that I made my own custom pattern for this. I found a basic poncho pattern and then I referenced that to make my own version of it for the Nutcracker with some tweaks to give him a longer back part for the cape. There was a lot of trial and error involved with this as well. I messed up the sizing and the shape of the panels a couple times and the placement of the panels, so I did have to redo it a couple of times, but it did end up looking really good once I finished it. This is also cut out of a t-shirt, so it's not like super high grade fancy fabric. It is just your basic polyester acrylic sort of t-shirt material. All of my pieces are cut out and it's time to sew. I'm not going to film it because I'm running out of storage space on my phone, for one thing, and also it's just kind of difficult to film when my sewing machine is massive. So I'm going to get these sewn and then I'll pick back up and show you the finished result for these pieces put together, and then I'll start adding the fur at the bottom of the coat and then possibly adding a few more extra little bits and pieces. Okay, I have very many updates for you. Here it is. I have done so much work on the Nutcracker and he is literally almost done. I just have to make the scepter and then I'm waiting for the gloss to arrive so I can make him all nice and glossy. That's all that's left. The scepter won't take me too long. So if all goes well, I can get him done today. But here is how he's looking. I figured out how to sew the cape after a lot of trial and error and having to redo a couple of the panels. The cape is done. I have sprayed the fake snow on him. It's not 100% dry yet. It's nearly there. As you can see, some of it came off on my finger, but it's nearly there. It's almost dry. I sprayed the back of the cape, the base, and then a little bit of the head. So we have a little bit of snow all over him. There is a little bit of hot glue gun here just because I had a little bit of trouble with the cape sizing and getting it to attach perfectly. So the cape is now hot glued to his body and we have this beautiful red ribbon sort of tying the whole look together. So if we go around to the back, you can see he has the full-length cape, and I intentionally designed the cape to have these panels along the sides so that way it would have more dimension and a little bit more movement to it, a little bit more depth and complexity. And as you can see, there's snow on this side as well. So he has a real snowy look to him, like he's out guarding the snowy mountains and stuff like that. So now I just have to make the scepter to go in here and then he'll be finished. The scepter was definitely the hardest part of the project, and that's because I was working with these really small peppermint sticks that were not the correct height that I was looking for, so I had to try to fuse them together with hot glue, which didn't work super well. So I ended up having to use some of the leftover large peppermints that I hadn't used for the top of the scepter to essentially make braces around each seam for the scepter. I was also drilling holes into Christmas ornaments, that way I could make the balls on the scepter. It was a big task that ended up taking way longer than I thought, and I would pretty much say with confidence that it was the trickiest part of the project. Okay, great news everyone. The Nutcracker is finished. This is what he ended up looking like with all his extra little added details, with the scepter added on. There is a layer of gloss sprayed onto him now, so he is 100% all the way finished. You can see I went in and I hot glued some peppermints and then some little presents down at the base to give it a little bit more detail. We have the scepter. And then as you go more upward, you see more of the details, more bits and pieces of the scepter, and then finally his face and his hat. Someone who doesn't really work with 3D, I feel like I've done a really good job with this project. I've been able to utilize my knowledge of sewing, have some fun with painting and character design, and work with a 3D object, which is something that I don't normally do all that much. I hope you all enjoyed the video of me making this Nutcracker. I know it's a bit different than what I usually do, and again, this is not a tutorial, but I definitely think you could take some tips and some tricks from this if you want to do this yourself, or if you want to do this as a thing with your friends next year for Christmas. Either way, I'm super happy with how my Nutcracker turned out, and I think I'm gonna make another one next year. As always, you can like, comment, and subscribe if you feel so inclined. My videos come out kind of randomly and sporadically nowadays. That's all for now, so I'll see you in the next one.